To be laughed at and told that you have a disease, that you're some kind of witch? Well, that's what life used to be like for me. You see, I was born looking a little different, and that's where my story begins. I'm Hassel Shiny, and I was born with only one eye. Yep, one eye. I grew up in a city in India where I lived with my parents and my big sister. My dad was in the military and my mom was a housewife. And even though my dad was quite strict when it came to our education, he was super chilled about everything else. In fact, I like to think that's where I got my fun-loving, carefree attitude from. Although I'm not entirely carefree. There's one thing that bothers me, and that's my appearance, of course. Because a lot of people around me are superstitious, they saw me as a sign of bad luck and told my parents that I obviously had an evil spirit or some kind of demon living inside me. Thankfully, my parents stuck up for me and didn't let these people bring us down. They simply ignored them. Just because I only had one eye didn't mean I was any less of a person. They said I was unique and special. I wish I could have believed them back then, but it was hard when everyone was treating me like I was some kind of monster. One day, a girl in my class started telling all the other kids that I was a witch, and pretty soon everyone started bullying me. My childhood was horrible because of this, and no one wanted to sit next to me in class because they were so scared of me. Every day, I'd come home from school in tears, but my parents were always there to support me. The doctors tried to operate on me, but they'd never seen anything like it before. I almost gave up hope that I could ever look normal. A few years later, my parents took me to see an ophthalmologist called Ulissa. She told my parents that they would be able to operate, but only when I was a bit older. By the time I was a teenager, I was super self-conscious about it. I didn't dare even look at any boys because they just teased me. I was miserable. I kept wondering why God had made me this way. What was the reason? It wasn't fair. My sister and I used to travel to school by bus. One day when I was 15, a woman got on the bus. The bus was completely full except for the seat next to me, but she refused to sit there. In front of everyone on the bus, she shouted that I was diseased, and that's why I lost my eye. Then she said if she sat next to me, she'd catch the disease too. To my horror, people on the bus started laughing and pointing at me. I was devastated. I didn't understand what was so funny. When I got home, I ran to my room and started crying. My mom just hugged me and said this is what life is like, that sometimes I'll come across people who won't like me, but that's okay, because I don't have to be everyone's cup of tea. But even today, I'll never forget that moment. There were other horrible moments too, like when my grandma said that my dad should have just left me in an orphanage. After that, we never spoke to Grandma again. I felt so bad for my family. Even my sister was teased for having a witch for a sister, and she had to stand up to those bullies. I didn't really have any friends in primary school, but when I got to high school, I met a girl named Pristy. She quickly became my best friend, and I felt so lucky to have her in my life. I was top of my class, played guitar, loved to draw, and I could write with both hands. Pristy used to call me Talentina, but I didn't let anyone see these talents I had because I didn't have much confidence. Pristy really believed in me, though, and on my birthday, I found out something shocking. She'd put my name forward for a science seminar competition. I told her there was no way I could do it, but instead of replying, she just handed me a gift. It was a diary, and when I opened it, she said, "Use it to decide what you want your future to look like." And then she just left. She wasn't at the competition. I looked for her everywhere. Afterwards, I went to her house, but it was locked. I asked my mom about it, and she said they had to sell their house and move because Pristy's dad was in a lot of debt. They'd migrated. I was so sad. Would I see her again? The next day, we got the results from the competition. I'd won! I tried to contact Pristy to tell her and thank her, but I couldn't get a hold of her. Even today, I still miss her so much. After I finished high school, I got my prosthetic eye. I had 13 minor operations and one major one before it was finally successful. It was the most painful experience of my life, and I had to take a year off to heal. But luck was on my side, and from then onwards, life got better. I had always wanted to do my MBBS, so I moved to the States to study. That's where I met Aaron. He's also from India. At first, we were just friends, but then we fell in love, and the rest is history. Now I'm pursuing an MS in ophthalmology in India, and Aaron's working as a neurosurgeon. I'm so glad I decided to stand up for myself and chase my dreams. I'm 24 now, and all I can say is never underestimate your capacity to deal with problems. No matter what life throws at you, you can handle it, just like I did. What do you think of my story? Share your comments below.